Life is filled with rhythm and rhyme, dancing around me through space and time. As I take notice of the words that I speak, I realize that what I sow is what I certainly will reap. Understanding the innate power of intention, I affirm my own unique ascension. Though I may certainly stumble along the way, my positive affirmation always lead my day.
Well, hello everyone. Alexis Brooks here from Higher Journeys. I am smiling broadly, as you can see, because I'm so delighted to finally bring to you the debut episode of Season 2 of Conscious Commentary in the Garden. It's been a long time coming. If you've been with Higher Journeys for a while now, you probably know that we debuted our first season of Conscious Commentary in the Garden last year, and I enjoyed it immensely. It can be a little challenging, I'll be frank with you, because you're constantly chasing the right lighting. The sun is constantly moving, but it's a glorious day today, and I'm just thrilled to be here with you to have a little chat. Now, without further ado, let's get to that little chat. Today I want to talk about something that I know y'all know about, because we've all done them at one time or another, and we've probably gotten an overload of the subject lately. It has to do with affirmations. Affirmations, something that has been in our sort of social, particularly in the spiritual conscious culture, in our spiritual arsenal, let's just say, for a long time. But why is it that so many people that practice affirmations, not all, but many, will say, damn it, they're not working for me? Why? Why do you think? So I thought I would dig into that a little bit today with you, because I have frankly been using affirmations off and on for most of my clearly adult life, and I have had some failures, but I've had some successes. And so I decided to dig into some of the things that I have been doing with affirmations over the years, particularly those that I've had success with, to see if there's anything that I'm doing that may be adding, let's just say, a little bit more juice or supercharge to the affirmations. So I came up with 3 themes that I'd like to present to you today, and this is great because you can always pause the video. We're not doing this live, and really kind of think about some of the themes I'm bringing to you and see if they resonate with you. The first one has to do with rhyming, and I'm actually calling this invoking the power of rhyme. Now, it's funny, when I was doing a little bit of Google research on whether this is something that's readily used in reciting affirmations, I actually did not come up with a lot. I do believe that Jack Canfield of Chicken Soup for the Soul fame has made mention, has talked a little bit about adding a rhyming sort of couplet or quatrain to affirmations to make them more powerful. But frankly, I don't know that there's a lot out there. But I, for some reason, have always felt that adding a rhyme, and particularly coming up with a rhyme on the spot about whatever it is that I'm looking to manifest, makes it, first of all, it adds emotion to you, and that, we're going to get into that a little bit more. I think that is a very powerful thing. But when really thinking about why I have this affinity for rhyming, particularly using affirmations, I thought, well, something may be going on here that has to do with both our own energetic field as well as the larger field, that which some people actually refer to as the field or the morphic field or the Akashic field. Very briefly, for those that aren't familiar with that term, the Akashic field is something that is believed to be, let's just call it a repository of information, infinite information. Not only information about what's happening now, but all information from the past as well as the future. Now, this isn't a talk about the field, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but when it comes to any kind of a recitation, in this case we're talking about affirmations and rhyming, if in fact every bit of thought and sound and deed and event, anything and everything that we all produce goes into that field, gets recorded in that field, and eventually creates a blueprint that I would dare say is primed to have the ability to manifest, is primed to manifest. So in pondering why rhyming in the use of affirmations may be working, I thought that could very well be the case. We don't know, and I don't even know that it's necessary to know why, the mechanics of it. The most important thing is there's something about rhyming. I'm going to tell you one right now that I've used effectively on many occasions, and it's kind of light, but I'll share it with you. It goes like this, and I'm sitting outside, so it's appropriate. When it's cloudy outside and I want the sun to show itself, I'll say to the sun, "Come on, sunshine, come on through, because none of these clouds got nothing on you." I have used that before, and I've used it a lot. In fact, I was actually just sharing that with Laura Eisenhower, who was on our show a couple of weeks ago, and she thought it was just, "Oh my God, Alexis, that's great." I said, "But Laura, there's something about this idea of rhyming, whether it's helping motivate you, bringing the sort of adrenaline up within your own energy field, and sort of recording the sentiment on and in the field. Could it be creating sort of a pattern, even a fractal pattern, that can then reverberate and create a physical manifestation, in this case the sun coming out? I have, you could call it coincidence, but I've done this a lot and it's worked. So I wanted to share that with you. I think that adding rhymes, and frankly, what is really fun for me is when I want to come up with an affirmation or just a thought that something that I would like to achieve, I won't write them down, I'll say them on the spot. I'll come up with, a rhyme or a word that rhymes with the previous sentence right on the spot. For some reason that adds a little extra juice for me. But let's see how you feel about that. Now, the second thing I want to get to, and I do have some notes here, has to do with, and I think we've kind of touched on this, repetition and the power of suggestion. Obviously, the notion of whether you're reciting a mantra in meditation, or you're doing a chant, or even a movement, people that rock, that's associated with certain ritualistic practices in meditative practices. The act of repetition, once again, we're talking about a few things going on here. Obviously, we have an energy field that surrounds us. We are surrounded by an energy field, could be the field, but also the brain. When you start to, when you repeat affirmations, maybe I say 3 times as a charm, when you're sitting down and doing an affirmation, it's signaling to your own auric field, the larger body, the energetic or universal energy field, as well as the brain. Let's call the brain the sort of catalyst or even the antenna. Again, creating a pattern, and the pattern becomes more solidified, if you will, not physically. Well, the goal obviously is to manifest, but it starts to solidify. It starts to maybe even become a little bit more dense until it can bring itself down into the physical, the actual manifestation. So repetition, the power of suggestion, and we know that is ubiquitous in particularly our media. We won't get into that, but I think you know what I mean. They say that if if a lie is repeated enough, it will be accepted by the mind as truth. Well, I think the saying goes, if anything is repeated long enough, it will be accepted by the mind as truth, both the unconscious or subconscious mind, particularly that being very potent, as well as the conscious mind. So any of these practices that I think, none of them are original, certainly, can be put into use for either good intentions or not so good intentions. Of course, in this case, we're talking about positive intentions. But again, we're talking about imprinting the field. I recommend doing affirmations, repeating them 3 times per session, let's say, and possibly 3 times a day. Now, in terms of when to do the affirmation, there are certain times when we are more susceptible to suggestion. For me, the target times are just prior to falling asleep and just prior to being fully awake. It's a state that we call the hypnagogic state, sort of that twilight in-between state where the conscious mind, what I call the squirrel on crack, that's in it, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, is kind of still sleeping. And let's imagine a tunnel is created, allowing, or a channel even, literally, allowing for whatever that suggestion is to come in and imprint itself on the field. So I would suggest, if you were going to do them, say 3 times a day, one being just before falling asleep, one just when you're lucid but not fully awake, maybe still in bed, and maybe midday where, let's say you take a little meditative break for 5 minutes or so. So that's just a suggestion. I do believe, as we know, I'm going to bring back the media analogy again, not really an analogy, it's an example, that I believe it only takes a few minutes for us to fall while watching programming, to fall into a slightly altered state or an alpha state. That alpha state is a very susceptible state for suggestion. So that, I think, is a very important aspect. And I'm going to apologize for the plane. Nice private plane going overhead. I'll pause for a moment. I also would like to talk about the number of days. Now, I'll bet you have heard this idea that 21 days is the sort of golden, mean for manifestation of any kind, or for a practice, breaking a habit or making a new habit. That is a little bit controversial. I did a little bit of research on that and discovered that it was a plastic surgeon named Maxwell Maltz who came up with this idea, or at least it's alleged that he came up with this idea that 21 days in order to make or break a habit, or in this case, to go through a process of reciting affirmations. Now, first of all, Maltz, very interesting, Dr. Maltz, how he sort of came up with this idea or theorized this 21-day rule is he had been doing plastic surgery on patients, let's say somebody who had a nose job as an example, and he would discover that the patients would take roughly 21 days, or at least 21 days, to get used to their new face. He started to notice a pattern with a lot of the patients that he was having, and he came up with that average as 21 days, but it's pretty clear that he said not 21 days exactly, but at least 21 days. So it's a bit controversial. Some people even call it a myth that 21 days to either make or break a habit or to develop a new pattern in this case. So here's what I would suggest for you, because I think that we're all different. When you are preparing, let's say your affirmation collection, or maybe it's just one affirmation that you want to develop, see where you sort of fall within the how long does it take for me to make or break a pattern. Here's a very simple example, and I've done this, not on purpose, but kind of realized what I was doing. When I changed, I don't use an alarm clock anymore, but when I was using an alarm clock, changed the position, I moved the alarm clock to another part of the room, because what I noticed was happening is I'd automatically hit it, and because it was in arm's reach, and turn on the snooze button and keep hitting that. I'm sure you've done that too. So I figured I'll move the alarm clock to the other side of the room so I have to get up. Now, here's good thinking, right? I'm sure you probably tried that as well. But here's what happened. For probably, I want to say probably a good month, I would by default look over or reach my arm to where the alarm clock used to be. It took me probably a good, I'm just kind of guessing, probably a good, let's say 21 to 30 days for me to get used to the fact, or for me to program my brain to know that the alarm clock was on the other side of the room. So what I would suggest to you is maybe try a little experiment to see what your threshold is for developing a new pattern or habit. And that would be your 21 days. It may be 15 days for you. It may be 30. That's how I would determine how long you should be, in this case, using an affirmation. So there's a little tip for you. Okay, we're going to keep it moving here. The next theme I want to talk about and end with has to do with making it a part of your daily ritual. Now we've kind of touched on this before, but we think of ritual as something like, well, tradition. You know, it's a ritual that every Thanksgiving we have turkey and stuffing and cranberry sauce. That's, you know, in a way, that's a ritual. But there is something, again, very, very potent about the act of ritual that not only signals to the brain, but signals to the field, once again, that this is something that you're committed to. It's something that you're not going to be wavering from. Now, some argue that ritual, or on a more mundane level, routine, is something that we can be detrimental, that we need to mix it up every now and again. I get that. But remember, what we're trying to do here is establish a pattern, not only in our own routine, but signaling to the field that this is something that is a part of my reality, whatever that affirmation is, in a rhyming form, so that it will be primed to manifest. So ritual, we can think of ritual in more exotic terms, like a magic spell, spell casting. And some of the elements that we spoke about previously, including rhyming, are well known to the idea of Wiccan, pagan ritual, which may have sort of connotations of negativity. And I don't think that's the case at all, certainly not in all cases. But ritual, going to church as a ritually or religiously every Sunday, whatever it may be. But the bottom line is, by doing this, and again, repetition comes into play, we're signaling to the field, to our own individual field as well as the collective field, that this is something that is a part of my environment, and therefore it's primed to manifest. So these are three things that I think in reviewing, we're talking about rhyming, and I think that's very powerful. Repetition and ritual. There's another R. This is 3 R's. I'm going to make it fourth. Resonance. And I think we brought this up earlier. What we're doing is establishing a resonance. We're falling into resonance with that which we're looking to intend or to manifest. Once you're in resonance with something, you are on the same frequency with it. So let's say you would like to manifest, I could be a little bit more creative, but let's just say a job, your ideal job. Let's say you want to manifest a job as an energy worker, energy healer, or a Reiki master, let's just say. And so you come up with a rhyme, you come up with an affirmation that embodies that reality, not as an ask, but not as something in the future, but something in present tense. And I'm not going to come up with anything on the spot right now, but in using the rhyme, repetition, and making it a ritual, you are, and adding emotion, because I do think that is so incredibly important. By repeating it over and over to yourself, you start to feel it. You start to feel it in your gut. You start to get excited. And you start to believe it, the field starts to believe it, more than believe it, is convicted by it. It's primed to happen. I have a couple of examples that I think I'll wait. We may actually continue this in another episode. I want to get some feedback from you guys, but let's see if this has helped you at all. Now, speaking of affirmations, using this approach, I want to share something with you. So excited that I have put together, this has been quite a while in the making. Actually, I think about 6 months ago I started putting these together, what I'm calling the Higher Journeys Power Affirmation series. Now granted, these are me doing the talking, I'm narrating, and they are designed as repetitive, rhyming affirmations set to beautiful music that they're kind of a set of instructions on how to use them, but using them for a period of days, several times a day, basically using all the principles that we talked about here today. But they're really, really great. I'm actually starting to get some feedback from some folks that have listened to them and they're really loving them. So I would love for you to try them out. We'll have a link in the description below so you can go on over and grab these affirmations. The areas that we cover, as a matter of fact, I just released abundance today, manifesting abundance. We cover health, relationships, self-love, emotional well-being, forgiveness, happiness and joy, career and success, creativity, and sovereignty. There are 10 in all, and what I'll be doing is releasing one per week for the next 10 weeks, starting now. So there'll be 9 weeks after that. So every week you'll get a new affirmation, whichever one resonates for you. And obviously, if you'd like to collect all 10, that would be great. So head on over. It's in the members only section on Patreon where you can grab those and give me your feedback. I'd love to know what you think. So that's that. Really excited about that. Look, guys, and this is on a really, really serious note. I mean, affirmations are fun, and the idea of really exploring how to use them is fun. But on a very serious note, you know, I was just thinking this morning as I was having coffee, for so long, so many of us have been saying we're on the precipice of something big. For years, many of us have felt that we were heading toward a choice point or a tipping point. In fact, one of the chapters in my book, Conscious Musings, is the title of the chapter is The Dichotomy of Consciousness and the Precipice of Change. And I was thinking this morning, my God, we're now looking at that precipice in the rearview mirror. So much has changed, and there are many of us that are feeling that the change is pretty serious and urgent, and I don't want to say not good, but it's pretty severe. Where others are feeling this is a unique opportunity for the shift, the reset. We're hearing all of these buzzwords. Whatever is happening, it's big. But I know one thing for sure: this is the opportunity for us to use everything in our arsenal that we can muster to make sure that we are evolving on the trajectory that we are meant to as an individual, that we're doing it in a sovereign way, that we're doing it with righteous indignation. There are a lot of things that are on the, it seems, chopping block, a lot of things on the table right now, a lot of decisions that are being made, a lot of changes. We all know what we've been through. This is the time to really take the bull by the horn, so to speak, and really, really take charge of our own lives. And so I'm hoping that these affirmations will be one way that we can sort of jumpstart or add to that arsenal for all of us. So I want to thank you for indulging me and hearing me out on some of the tips that I have for you for using affirmations. So the sun is shifting yet again, so I'm going to shut this down. Before I do, I want to say very quickly, next week on our regular Higher Journey show, I'm so excited that we will be having Brad Olson, who is the author of Beyond Esoteric, on the show. He's going to be part of our Contact in the Desert featured speaker series. In fact, we're concluding with him. We've had Laura Eisenhower, Mary Rodwell just last week, and next week it'll be Brad Olson. So please join us for that. In the meantime, go ahead and get your affirmations together, folks. If you'd like to download the ones that I have for you, great. If not, come up with your own. Either way, let's affirm our success, affirm the life that we want for ourselves. Let's do it together. All right, journeyers, I love you. Talk to you soon. Bye.